studying law after jail. So from the young age of 10 years old, I grew up visiting the prison system. My father was incarcerated for 16 and a half years straight. I grew up having jail phone calls, having jail visits. My mates were in jail. And then I went to jail when I was 17 years old. I went to Brisbane Boys Yard, which is located inside a Brisbane Correctional Centre. While I was there, I suffered SA at the hands of a screw prison officer. So basically, my whole upbringing, there was a lot of bad taste left in my mouth from going through the criminal justice system, being on bail, being on parole, being put in handcuffs by the police, being sentenced to jail sentences by judges, by police prosecutors that would help to convict me on the charges that, I had been charged with. The police, put my dad in jail for crimes that he had committed. So for me, studying law after jail is a very hard thing to do. And there's a lot of aspects that you don't really think about when you're sort of coming from that life, the life of, crime, drugs, violence. So on Friday night, I went down to my university cocktails and careers night, which was super awesome. Our sort of university put on a little gig. Our University of New England had put on a night, and they had a judge there. So this judge he's like a famous judge. He's, if you're a law student, you always read about him. So it's Honourable Justice Michael Kirby. I may not have pronounced that correctly, but he talked about all the things, and it was really interesting and also hard for me, a little bit triggering to listen to this judge, who has probably locked up people like myself, like my father, for good and bad things. There might have been instances, where he really put away some people that might have harmed kids, that might have done some really terrible, sickening things. And then, after that, I had another opportunity to listen to some other people in the legal profession. One, was a lawyer. One was for the lawyers union. One worked at our university, and one was a police prosecutor. And so I was literally about 2 meters away from this police prosecutor. And when he started talking, I felt really uncomfortable, like extremely uncomfortable. Anyway, so he kept yarning and kept telling his story, and he was saying some of the right things, and it sort of made me flip the perception of, how I feel about police prosecutors. Although, just don't take this as I want to become a police prosecutor, because I definitely will never ever be a police prosecutor. But he was talking about some of the crimes that he locks people up for, sex crimes, which in my opinion, if you're a sex offender, you've been done for, any child sort of sexual abuse, then people deserve to be in jail. That's my opinion. But then also too, at the end, I sort of had to leave the room because, he also said things like, if you want to be a police prosecutor, don't be a police prosecutor if you just want to lock people up. I think there's a lot of bad police prosecutors out there that just, might have something that happened to them when they were younger, that they just want to lock people up. And anyway, I felt it really hard, and it felt really hard for me to sit across from him and listen to him talking about locking people up. And I was like 2 meters away. I was like, you would have locked people up like me back in the day. Like, you would have sent people to jail like me and my father. So it was really hard. Anyway, so I walked away. I left the room after he talked, and I just walked it off, and I was just come back and started shaking it off. And then I started speaking to one of the law students there, and this one really opened my eyes up, hearing this perspective. And he was talking about, he wanted to be a police prosecutor when he first started studying law. And then he realized that the system is so broken that he doesn't want to do that anymore. But some of the reasons why he wanted to be a police prosecutor were because of, in his own family, he had some family members murdered, innocent family members who, had done nothing wrong, and he wanted to be a police prosecutor because of that. He wanted to lock people up that had just killing people for no reason. And everyone has different reasons for wanting to study law. Mine comes from I wanted to give the little guy a go, to stand up for the little guy, for people who have been through institutional child abuse or been fucked over by the system. But everyone has their own little spin on why they want to study law. And I don't ever want to become a police prosecutor. Don't get me wrong, I never ever want to be one of them. But it was very interesting to be in a room and hold that space with, a judge who has locked multiple people up, to stand in front of a police prosecutor and listen to him talking about locking people up. But then to really hear about this fella who has wanted to become a police prosecutor and then study law and then realize how broken the system was. But the reason why he wanted to do that was because, he had some of his family members murdered innocently. So yeah, I just want to drop that little message in there. If you ever had thought about studying law, you might have thought about some of the things that I thought about. For me, it's very hard to be around, people that have locked people up. But I thought I'd just drop this message in there. I would love to hear any thoughts, comments, feedback. If you got to listen to this long 7-minute video,